Thank you, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Delighted to be here with you and appreciate the remarks of the State Secretary. I'm going to take a holistic approach for a few minutes to talk to the subject of financial flows affecting developing countries, and then get into the question that is before us, country-by-country reporting, in a little more detail. Some of you know that we're involved in a task force on financial integrity and economic development. A number of governments, civil society organizations, and foundations have come together to address the issue of greater transparency in the global financial system for the benefit of developing countries. We arrive at this analysis by studying financial flows that affect developing countries. Now, interestingly, the question of total financial flows affecting developing countries has never been put on the table. We have never examined the question of total money into developing countries, total money out of developing countries, and what's left over for developing countries. This basic consideration has never been examined by the World Bank or by other development agencies. In order to do that, you have to study the whole of inflows, and that includes foreign direct investment, portfolio investment going into developing countries, lending to developing countries, remittances going into developing countries, grants, and so forth. To look at the outflow side, you likewise have to look at investment in portfolio activities taking money out of developing countries, debt repayments, and then you also have to look at the unrecorded money that goes out of developing countries. The money that goes out arising from criminal activities, corrupt activities, and commercially tax evading activities. If you look only at the unrecorded flows, the illicit flows of money going out of developing countries, in global financial integrity, we estimate that at $1.2 trillion a year. That's the data for 2008, the latest year for which we have information. Across a period of years, this has accumulated to trillions of dollars that have been shifted out of developing countries. Now, a lot of people think that this is all about corruption in those corrupt countries over there. In fact, in the cross-border flow of unrecorded illicit money, the component that derives from corruption, that is bribery and theft by government officials, is 3% of the global total. We estimate the criminal component at 30 to 35% of the global total, and the commercially tax evading component is by far the largest at 60 to 65% of the global total. Our multinational corporations and others are intimately involved in the tax evading aspects that take money out of developing countries. We regard the illicit flow, the tax evading flow of money out of developing countries as the most damaging economic condition hurting the global poor. It drains hard currency reserves, heightens inflation, reduces tax collection, cancels investment, and undermines trade. It contributes to poverty and inequality and leads to insecurity and instability. The overarching answer to the curtailment of flows out of developing countries is transparency. Greater financial transparency is the route toward a more orderly, legal, ethical, and equitable world. Okay, what does transparency mean? In our task force, it means several things to us working on this issue. I'll mention 5 of them and then talk about country-by-country reporting more completely. Among the recommendations that we make for greater transparency in the global financial system, First of all, beneficial ownership. Every financial institution should know with whom it is dealing. It should not be dealing with corporations or entities where it does not know who is the flesh and blood, the natural person that owns the account. Beneficial ownership is a key step in the direction of greater transparency in the financial system. Second, we recommend the curtailment of trade mispricing. Current efforts to address this problem are not working satisfactorily. We believe that the exchange of world pricing data among countries can contribute to this, and that there's also scope for declarations of fair pricing that can be useful in this connection. Third, we advocate that tax evasion should be made an offense under anti-money laundering policies. This is being considered by the Financial Action Task Force in Paris at the present time. Fourth, we advocate the automatic exchange of tax information across borders. This is the EU Savings Tax Directive expanded to include more countries and more types of income. And fifth, we recommend country-by-country reporting. You understand perfectly well what this is. Country-by-country reporting is a process by which corporations would file information on their sales, profits, taxes paid, and other information for every jurisdiction in which they are working. That is not the requirement today. Today, you get global accounts without it being broken down into the jurisdictions where corporations are established. If you were to require country-by-country reporting right now, what you would find is that many corporations would be reporting losses in countries around the world where they are doing business, and they would be reporting large profits in tax haven entities where they have no employees, no offices, no facilities. The sheer fact of reporting that would lead to change. There are very few corporations that could bear the reputational risk of reporting losses in many countries around the world, huge profits in tax havens. They would have to change simply from the availability of that kind of information. Country-by-country reporting is recognized now as a vital tool on the path toward greater transparency in the global financial system. We are, in the first instance, directing that concept of country-by-country reporting to the extractive industries. So let's go a bit deeper into this question. There are, I think, two essential issues before this group. First, for Norway, what form should country-by-country reporting take? Should it follow Dodd-Frank in the United States, or should it embrace the more aggressive approach of publish what you pay Norway? The Dodd-Frank report requires extractive industries to report to foreign governments the government's share of revenues derived from each project in which the corporation is involved. Must report the production share that is owed to the government, royalties, fees, taxes, bonuses, and so forth. Dodd-Frank does not require country-by-country reporting, does not require reporting of sales and profits by corporations. Dodd-Frank is, in our judgment, a step in the right direction, but it is not as effective as country-by-country reporting, and in my view, the full form of country-by-country reporting is necessary if we are going to effectively reduce that flow of money out of developing countries, which we estimate at $1.2 trillion a year. It will take the more robust form of reporting for resource-rich countries in order to curtail that outflow. Now, another reason to think beyond Dodd-Frank legislation is that the regulations may reduce the intent of Dodd-Frank. I think you know that the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States is writing the regulations that will implement the legislation. The Securities and Exchange Commission has 5 members. 2 of them have already recused themselves from discussing this aspect of the Dodd-Frank bill, Section 1504. One was the chairman, and another commissioner recused themselves. Of the remaining 3 commissioners who will be approving the regulations for Dodd-Frank, 1 seems to be in favor of it, 1 is on the fence, and 1 seems to be willing to bargain provisions of 1504 against other aspects of the Dodd-Frank legislation. Another reason to think beyond Dodd-Frank is that Dodd-Frank does not really get Norway very far beyond where it is now. It's my understanding that Statoil largely conforms to the requirements of Dodd-Frank already. Other Norwegian mining and ventures would be brought under the same terms, but that doesn't really move Norway much past the position that it is already in. And finally, another reason to move beyond Dodd-Frank is that Dodd-Frank doesn't have anything to say about investor risk. Country-by-country reporting does. Country-by-country reporting provides the information that's necessary on which investors can make decisions concerning the activities of multinational corporations investing in resource-rich countries. So for all of these reasons, we think that movement beyond Dodd-Frank is called for, is the preferred step for Norway. There's another reason also to consider a movement beyond Dodd-Frank. Norway already upholds the highest standards in its development activities, in its aid activities to other countries. It would be inconsistent to uphold the highest standards in development activities and proportionately lesser standards required of Norwegian corporations investing in the same countries where Norway is conducting its economic development activities. Consistency, policy coherence is called for here. A whole of government approach is called for here, where the high standards that are upheld in development activities are also expected of Norwegian corporations investing in resource-rich countries. For all of these reasons, we think that the more robust proposals of Publish What You Pay Norway are the way to go on this issue. The second question that is perhaps before this organization, as the state secretary, this group, as the state secretary said, is the question, should Norway wait for the European Union or should Norway move ahead of the European Union? We would advocate that Norway take its own decision. Waiting is always an argument. There's always an argument to wait until there is international consensus on issues. But let's recognize the strengths of Norway. No small country, and by that I mean a country with a small population, exerts such an outsized influence on the global community as does Norway. Norway is the most liberal democracy in the world. Norway has the most transparent economy in the world, and Norway enjoys the highest standard of living in the world. I would respectfully suggest to you that these characteristics of Norwegian society are not coincidental. They are complementary. They work together. Norway would be furthering these characteristics of its society and furthering its leadership by moving forward with what it thinks is right and what it thinks should be the standards for the whole world. In a word, lead. On this issue of transparency in extractive industries, lead. And the whole world is likely to follow Norway's leadership on this question. Thank you.